Hello everybody, welcome back to English Building Blocks. Today we're going to talk about the present perfect, more specifically about the construction and the use. Okay, now this is the first video on a number of videos on the present perfect, so stay attentive to upcoming videos. Okay, now if you like these videos, subscribe, right? Click the notification bell, give the thumbs up, or just leave a comment down below. Okay, and now let's get started. So, how do we construct this present perfect? Well, there are two things that you need to remember. Firstly, you need to remember how to construct correctly a sentence in affirmative, negative, and interrogative. Okay? And secondly, you also need to know that the auxiliary verb of a present perfect is the verb to have, and the principal verb is a past participle. Now remember, the past participle can be regular and then it ends in ed, or it can be irregular, and then you have to have a look at the last column of that famous list of irregular verbs. Okay? Now, let's have a look at some examples. Let's begin with an affirmative sentence. Okay? They have finished their homework. So you see, we use the subject they followed by the auxiliary verb have, and then we use the past participle of the regular verb to finish, which is finished, okay, and we end with the object their homework, and that is an affirmative construction. They have finished their homework. All right? Okay, let's have a look now at a negative sentence. Okay. You haven't read that book. So again, here we use the subject, you, then we use the contraction of the auxiliary verb have and the word not, which is haven't. Then we use the past participle of the verb to read, which is read, and we finish with the object that book. And then we have a negative construction. You haven't read that book. Okay. Now, let's have a look at the interrogative sentence then. Has she bought a new car? So we use the auxiliary verb has, and then we use the subject she. So you invert subject and auxiliary verb. Okay. Then you use the past participle bought, followed by the object a new car. And that is an interrogative construction. Has she bought a new car? Okay. Now remember, in these interrogative constructions, we can also use a question word at the beginning. For example, why has he chosen that film? So here we begin with the question word why, and then it is followed by the auxiliary verb has, the subject he, the principal verb chosen, which is irregular, and the object that film. Okay? Now, one small observation. Remember, in the third person singular, so when you use he, she, or it, or any substitute, you need to use the auxiliary verb has. Okay? Good. Now, let's have a look at those contractions. So, let's have a look at those contractions. As usual, we can contract in negative sentences, combining the auxiliary verb and the word not. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples. I haven't played tennis today. So you see, we combine the auxiliary verb have and the word not into the contraction haven't. I haven't played tennis today. Okay, we can do something similar in the third person singular. For example, it hasn't rained. So here we contract the auxiliary verb has and the word not, and this becomes hasn't. It hasn't rained. Okay, now we can also contract in affirmative sentences. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. First one, we've eaten pizza. So you see we contract the auxiliary verb have using an apostrophe VE. We've eaten pizza. So we have eaten or we've eaten pizza. Okay. Now in the third person singular, we can also contract. For example, she's ridden a horse. She has ridden a horse, or she's ridden a horse. Okay, so we use here an apostrophe S. She's ridden a horse. Now, some of you may wonder, that apostrophe S, isn't that the same construction when using the verb to be? Well, yes, it is. It is the same contraction. But the principal verb will tell you if it is the verb to have or the verb to be. For example, he's bought tomatoes. So the principal verb here is a past participle. So we know this is the verb to have. He has bought or he's bought tomatoes. On the other hand, when we use the gerund, then we know this is the verb to be. For example, he's buying tomatoes or he is buying tomatoes. So that gerund buying tells us that that is the verb to be. Okay? Nice. Now, there are many ways to explain how to use the present perfect correctly, but the way I like to explain it is in the following way. The present perfect indicates two moments in time. Firstly, it indicates that the action started in the past. Now, that can be a specific moment in the past, or it can just be in the past in general, okay? And secondly, it indicates that there is a result to the action now in the present. Maybe the action finished in the past, maybe it didn't finish in the past. That is not important. What is important is that the action started in the past and there is a result now. Okay? Furthermore, we can keep using the present perfect as long as the result remains the same. Alright? Now, let's have a look at a couple of examples. First one, I have washed my car. In this case, it's obvious that we started washing our car in the past. Okay? In this case, it is also finished in the past, and there is a result now, which is a clean car. And that's why we use the present perfect. I have washed my car. So I started washing my car in the past, I finished washing my car in the past, and now as a result, my car is clean. I can keep using the present perfect as long as my car is clean. The moment my car gets dirty, I stop using the present perfect. Okay? Now, second example. I have lived in Spain for 10 years. Obviously, I started living in Spain in the past some 10 years ago, okay? But in this case, the action hasn't finished yet. And as a result, I still live in Spain, okay? And as long as I live in Spain, I can keep using the present perfect. All right? So I have lived in Spain means that I started living in Spain in the past In this case, it has not finished yet, and as a result, I still live in Spain. Okay, good. So let's have a look at the verbs to go and to be in the present perfect. Let's begin with the verb to go. So when we use the verb to go in the present perfect, for example, I have gone to New York, then the meaning is that you started going to New York in the past, and as a result, you are in New York now. So when you say I have gone to New York, the idea is that you are in New York in this very moment. Okay? On the other hand, when you use the verb to be in the present perfect, for example, I have been to New York many times, then the idea is different. This means that you were in New York in the past, but you are not in New York now. You stop being in New York, and as a result, you are not in New York now. You can be anywhere else, but you are not in New York. Okay? Now, small observation, when we use the verb to be in the present perfect in this way, then we use the preposition to. I have been to New York many times. We don't use the preposition in, we use the preposition to. Okay? Good. So, to sum up, there are two things that you need to remember about the present perfect. Firstly, you need to remember how to construct it correctly. Okay? And we do so by using the auxiliary verb to have, and the principal verb is in the past participle form. Now remember, the past participle can be regular or irregular depending on the verb you use. Okay, so also remember that you can contract in affirmative and negative sentences when using the present perfect. All right. Now, second thing that you need to remember is how to use the present perfect correctly. And we do so by indicating two moments in time. Firstly, we indicate that the action started in the past. Now, that can be a specific moment in the past or just in the past in general. All right. And secondly, you indicate that there is a result to your action in the present now. So you have an action that started in the past and you have a result now. The action may have finished in the past or not. That is not important. All right. So the action started in the past and you have a result now. You can keep using the present perfect as long as the result remains the same. Okay. And that's it for today. Okay. I hope you have learned something, and if so, subscribe. All right. Okay. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.